Hello, welcome to episode 20. So, pretty cool that we're on episode 20, and we'll be covering the if-else conditions and if statements for Python. So, right here I've put the logical conditions from mathematics that Python supports. We'll be using those. An example if statement we'll start off with, which I think we're kind of familiar with. So we can assign x to 10, and we can assign y 5, and we can just say if x is greater than y, and then what we want to execute, make sure we're indenting, print x is greater than y. And we've done this several times. So 20.pi, we see that it outputs x is greater than pi. So just really quick, I want to highlight the indentation part because I keep hammering it home. Python's very picky about this. Other languages will let you get away with it, but not in Python. So you see here we have an indentation error. So luckily Python's very explicit, and VS Code's very explicit as well. Statement on line 13. So you see here in VS Code, we can kind of see it thinks print's wrong, but at least it highlights the issue, and Python tells us exactly what the issue is. So the other thing we have is we have the elif. So we can do an elif x equals y, and then we'll print x equals y. And then we'll just change this to 10 up here, save, run. We see x equals y. So just so you know, Python's trying this first. And if this test fails, it moves on to the next test, which is this elif statement. You can also do elif, if, elif, and else. Indentation. And then we can print whatever we want, like y is greater than x. And we will change that to 11, save, run, and we see that it made it all the way down to this else statement, which is y is greater than x. So if the first condition is not true, then it moves on to this elif condition. If that's not true, then it will go to the bottom. And you can also have an else without this elif, so we can just delete this, or I'll just comment it out, so in case you're following along. And then we run it and see it doesn't matter if we just go right to else. So the other thing that we've seen that's kind of like a shorthand if, I'm going to just comment this stuff out really quick. So we can just do like a single line here, if statement. So we can say if y is greater than x, print. I need to put those in quotes. So still runs because you can do a lot of stuff inline. A lot of times you'll want to break it up, how we had it before, indented on the next line, just for readability's sake. And then you can also do something like this where you have an else statement built in. So I'm actually going to just delete this one for simplicity. So we can say print yes, and then we do the if y is greater than x, else print no. So we can save that. And I know the syntax looks kind of odd, but you see yes for that now, and then if we change it to something less than no, or even something equals, because we use the greater than operator, we get no as well. So I commented some stuff out, and then I just copy pasted x and y down here, and this statement that we had earlier, this print yes, if blank, else print blank, right? So that's called a ternary operator. And that's just an if statement that's saying, if conditions met, do this. If it's not met, do that. And you'll see that quite a bit. I use it a lot in React. It's very common in React. So you can also do an if-else statement on one line with even up to like 3 conditions or more, or whatever you're doing. It gets kind of weird to read, and I'll just show you. So we'll just print 1 if x is greater than y, else we will print 2 if x equals y, else print 3. And for our example, y is greater than x. In this one, I have y at 12 and x at 10. And if we run that, we see that we get 3 here. So this might look kind of confusing. Just know that we're putting the print before the conditional. So normally you would be used to something like this. So that's kind of what this is. This is just in one line, right? And it's kind of out of order just because it's saying the print part first. But we have all the same elements here. We have if x is greater than y, and we have print 1. And in this one we're using elif, but even if we change it here, right, that's what it would kind of look like, but notice that now we have errors. So you want elif here for syntax purposes, and you have to have your indentation and everything correct. But pretend this says else and isn't giving us errors, then it's the same basic elements as this. We have this conditional, if they are equal, right here, and we will print 2. Otherwise, we just print 3. So else we print 3. So as you see, we get the same output from these two things. If we change the values to be equal again, we get 2 because they're equal. And if we change y to be lesser than, we get 1 from both. So we're getting the exact same output. This is just single line version of this. Okay, another thing we have is we have the keyword and, which is a logical operator, and it's used to combine conditional statements. So if we just cut and paste this down here, or you can comment that out if you want to keep it kind of with different groups of notes or whatever you want to do. And then we'll just add a third variable here. We'll name it z, and we'll just set it to something like, well, we'll do like 800, just so it's very clearly a different number. If x greater than y and z is greater than x, and then we want it to do something, so we can say print both are true. So we can save, and I like and operators. I use these a lot. So save that, run. We get both are true. So both of these actually have to evaluate to true in order for it to continue on and print this. If either of these is false, it will not print. So if we change this to y and try to run it, you see that we don't get any output. And that's because it never ran the print block. So we can even add an else statement, print, what are we doing? Both are true. Both are not true. Okay, both. Save, and now we're getting both are not true. And then again, if we go back to this being z, since it's 800, both are true. So I'm just going to like leave a comment here that this is and / or. And you can also use the or keyword here. And how or works is that if either of these are true, it will print this. And then both are not true. So otherwise it will print that. So we'll save, and at least one of these conditionals is true. So either x is greater than y or z is greater than x. Move on, print this line. So if we change both of these to false, so x is less than y or z is less than x, save, print, we see both are not true. So neither of these conditionals are true. Okay, now we're going to cover nested if statements. So you can have an if statement. Let's just have x equal 21. We'll say if x is greater than 10, and we will print x is greater than 10. And then, with the same indentation as the print, this is nesting it. We'll say if x is greater than 20, print x is also greater than 20. And then we'll have an else in here, which means that if it doesn't meet the conditional, right, if it's not greater than 20, it should print this, x is not greater. Definitely not greater than 290. And I need proper indentation and to print that. I was getting ahead of myself. So what you'll notice here is that this has to be true for either of these to go off. And then it will evaluate to this to meet this. If this condition is met, it will then print. Otherwise, it will move to this else and print. But if x doesn't even meet this first condition, we'll never hit this else. And we'll never hit this if, because they are nested. So now we will run 20.py. And we see that it is greater than 10. It is also greater than 20. If we change it to 11, save, run, we see that it's greater than 10, and it is not greater than 20. So we're going from here to here. And now if we change it to something less than 10, and we run, we don't get anything back. So even though it's not greater than 10, it's not greater than 20, this isn't firing, because it's nested inside of this first conditional. So for this to even be considered, it has to meet this first condition. And that's what nested conditionals do. So one other thing we can do is that if statements can't be empty. And so say you have if x is greater than this, and we have there's a pass statement that you can use to avoid getting an error. So for instance, I'll just save this really quick. And obviously that this is going to evaluate to true, right? And it has nothing to do. So we get this error. Inspected an indented block after the if statement. So it's actually saying that like this should be indented and something should be here. But if we don't want an error, we can just pass in pass here, and then you see. So nothing happens, it just passes. And okay, that's it for episode 20, Python if-else statements. If you want to do some exercises, W3 Schools has exercises for these as well. So please feel free to check them out.